Lydia and Brian, welcome to Washington Times Higher Ground. I want to dig right into this incredible story. Lydia, you have been going viral over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure it's been a surreal and an amazing experience. You delivered a very touching commencement graduation address as valedictorian, in which you shared your faith so openly and beautifully with the audience. Let's first talk about the reaction to that speech. What has it been like to have people all over the world at this point respond to your words?
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think it's really neat how people from, like you said, all across the world have seen it. And I really appreciate all the people who have reached out. I've gotten to talk to a lot of people, hear other people's stories. They've been able to share their faith with me and how my words impacted them. So it's been really awesome. And it's opened up a lot of opportunities to have really awesome conversations with people about Jesus.
Yeah, Brian, you are a pastor, which is incredible, and you raised your kids to love the Lord. And when you were at this event watching it happen, I'm sure you had a sense of what was going to be said. Before the viral nature of it, before all of us were talking about it, what was it like as a dad to sit there and just take this speech in for what it was?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing was just to be able to be in the room with so many of her peers and her families of those peers, many of whom I know and have had the pleasure of knowing over the last 14 years since we've lived here in South Carolina. So I knew that she was going to be sharing what was on her heart. And the people that were in that room, most of them who were her friends, knew her heart and knew where she was coming from. And so as she was sharing, it felt like there was a connection, if you will. It's almost crazy to say it like that, but everybody who was in the room, especially those that were kind of sitting around us that I could get a vibe from, it was just like her, when she was speaking, it was making a connection immediately. It's like it drew everyone in to what was being said. I mean, there had been a lot of pomp and circumstance up to that point with the entry and everybody filing in, and it was a great feel for what the room was going in. But when she started to speak, and especially as she started to get to the personal part like that, it's like everybody just kind of got a little bit quieter and started listening a little bit more. And that was pretty neat. You could tell what was going on. It was amazing.
Well, and let's talk about what was going on, because Lydia, you could have gotten up, and you earned the right to be on that stage, right? As valedictorian, you could have gotten up to talk about anything. You chose to talk about not just faith, but the value that people have in God, and beyond that, and I think even more specifically, how your relationship with Jesus has guided you through difficult times. When you were coming up with what you were going to speak on, what was it that prompted you to say, I'm going to boldly get on a public school stage and say this in front of all my peers? Why did you do it?
Well, I think the biggest reason is just I didn't really second guess myself too much when it came about or to talking about Jesus, because like Jesus is the center of everything that I do and everything that I say. And so like, why would I not talk about Jesus? And I think that also came a lot from the encouragement that other people gave me when I did have questions about whether or not I should talk about Jesus or not. But I wanted people to understand, like, I think society has changed a lot what success means, and standing up in front of them as both the senior class president and as a valedictorian, I have experienced success. But even as I've experienced that success, the only true satisfaction that I found hasn't been in those accomplishments. It's only been in Jesus. And I think that it comes maybe a little bit stronger or a little bit more powerful coming from someone who is standing in front of you, who has experienced success, and who is saying that those things isn't what satisfies me, but Jesus is what satisfies me. And I just can't stress enough, like, how much that means to me and how much I wanted other people to understand that. Again, like, I just think society has really twisted what success is. And I just want people to remember that their identity doesn't come from what they accomplish, but it comes from what Jesus says and about who you are, and that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And it doesn't matter what you do, you will always be successful if you have Jesus.
That is such a countercultural message. Brian, you're a pastor again, and so you deal with all sorts of life issues. But when you look at culture today and worship, I mean, the worship of self really does often feel to be the flavor of the day. People are really looking to themselves. Why do you believe, and I know that you're going to be partial here because she is your daughter, but it's an incredible, timeless message. Why do you believe Lydia's message was so important in light of where we are right now?
Yeah, because I think really what it was her message, what she was saying, but what she was able to do is connect with people in that room, and I guess now all across the nation and the world, about a conversation that they're already having with themselves, whether they have that conversation out loud or not. It is so many voices, so many things that are speaking into them about how they determine who they are, or what they believe, or why they believe it, or how they can view themselves on social media or those things. To have someone just very clearly walk up and say, like Lydia did, that, you know, those things that are there that are competing noises, they're competing messages, in the midst of all of that confusion, in the midst of all of that talk that's going on, let's get back to what is really true, because what God says about you never changes. And because it doesn't change, you can have the assurance as like an anchor point in the middle of all of the society and culture and things that are going on. Because what you're doing is you're acknowledging that it's not what others are saying, it's about what Jesus is saying. And if it's about what Jesus is saying, then there is a root, there's an anchor in that. And it really doesn't matter what comes their way after that point.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful truth and an important message. And to that point, Lydia, when you were up there saying those things that your dad was just describing, you know, you got applause. And I thought that was the most moving part. One of the most moving parts was seeing the reaction to what you were saying, because again, you didn't know how people were going to react, not just in, you know, the world to the viral video, but you had no idea it was going to go viral, but to the people in front of you. What was it like to hear that applause and cheering as you were stating those timeless facts?
Yeah, it was just really encouraging. Kind of going into it, I was nervous because I was worried how people would respond to me talking about Jesus, but just taking that like deep breath right after the first applause happened, I was like, wow, this is God moving in here. Like God is here with me, and He is not only speaking through me, but He is moving in the hearts of the people who are listening to what I have to say. And so it was just such a huge comfort. And it really just gave me that encouragement to keep going and to keep talking with intentionality and just encouraging them. And just it was just the presence of God in that room is what I felt when I heard the applause.
Lydia, what has been most interesting and surprising to you with the viral nature, all of the media stories? What's sort of come out of that in terms of just opportunities? You mentioned increased opportunities, your ability to speak on shows like this. I would just love to hear just the interesting things that are unfolding as a result of your willingness to step out boldly in faith.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just all of these opportunities to get to talk to people on these news outlets. And so that's been really awesome. It's also given me a lot of experience with it too. So I'm a lot more comfortable doing it. I was kind of really hesitant about public speaking even prior to my graduation speech. And now that I'm just talking all the time about my speech, and like, it's made me a lot better at doing it. So I'm really grateful for that. And also I think I've gotten so much encouragement, and like, words really matter to me, and like the way that people speak. And so like all of these people telling me that they're so excited for me and that they're seeing the ways that God is using me. And like, that just gives me a lot of encouragement. And then, yeah, I've gotten a lot of cool opportunities. Like I'm going to be on a podcast soon. I got offered some tickets to go to Passion, which is so fun. Like I just have had a lot of opportunities to do things that I wouldn't have been able to. And I just think God has continuously prepared me, like with all the things that I've gone through and all of these opportunities that I'm getting, like He's just preparing me more and more in order to do what He wants for me to do. So it's been really awesome, and I'm really excited. And I just hope that God continues to move, and not just my life, but the people who get to hear my speech and who get to watch these interviews. I just think it's really awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, Brian, if you could tell us a little bit about, you know, your late wife and Lydia, your mom, because, you know, you brought her up during this speech and how you navigated that loss. And, you know, from a past interview that we recently did, it really sounds like she was an amazing woman of God who raised you up in an incredible way. And so, Brian, what was it like to have that part of the story be told to the audience in that way?
Yeah, I think that Billy, being a pastor, a lot of your life, most of your life, is already kind of in a fishbowl. So everybody kind of sees and knows what's going on, especially being at a church like ours, where my wife was just as equally plugged into the ministry and the mission of what was going on as I was. And so it has been a bittersweet process, I think, is the best way, because knowing Sherry as well as I do, that she would have been so proud of Lydia's accomplishment, not just with her grades and those kind of things. What she would have been most proud of is the fact that she took that opportunity to share about the most important person in her life, and that was Jesus Christ. And so Lydia was able to model that. Sherry was my wife for 25 years. We did wonderful things together, had many years of success in life and in marriage. We were able to bring 4 children. Lydia's the third of 4 children that we have. With Sherry not being there, the pain was real. The pain was obvious. I had a partner and a helpmate, my best friend in life, that had walked through so much of everything in the last 25, 26 years together. To not have her there for that was very difficult. And then to open this up for so many people across the world now to kind of know what's happening. The thing that I would just remind everyone, especially if you've lost someone, a spouse, that you're not alone, and that you can be kind to yourself as you grieve and as you mourn. It's not been 2 years since we've lost Sherry, and every single day we feel her loss and her pain here. But take great comfort that she's at peace now, and that as a family unit, we have pulled together, and we've decided that, despite what has happened, we're going to look at life full in the face as a family, and we're going to do it together.
Well, and Lydia, you sharing that story and how you journeyed through it. I mean, you can see the life and legacy of your mom living out in the values she taught you, and your willingness to step out in faith. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we go? I'm so thankful that you've given time to tell this story.
Yeah, I think just kind of going off of what my dad said, like my mom was the example to me of how to be a godly woman. And she was the example to me how to intentionally love and pursue other people. And she just never failed to open up an opportunity to talk to others about Jesus. So I think that's another huge reason why I openly talked about Jesus, because I knew that's what my mom would have done. And she just was the example to me of how to live out your faith boldly. And I am just so grateful for the 16 years I did have with my mom. And even though I miss her dearly and I would do anything to trade what happened just to have her back, I know that this is how God is using what happened for his glory. And I am grateful for that, even though it still makes me sad.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for being faithful, for your initial boldness in giving the speech, for your willingness to speak out to people like me and in the media, sharing the gospel with everybody who is able to hear it. Appreciate your time today. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.